welcome to Season 8, Episode 22 of the Ubuntu podcast.
Some more excited.
Okay. In this episode, we're going to be discussing our ongoing experience with the Ubuntu phone, and we have some command line love. And we're going over your feedback. I'm Martin, and joining me this week are an excitable Laura.
Hiya!
And Mark.
Hello.
And Alan.
Hiya!
So, what have we all been up to? Alan, what have you been up to?
I've been away on holiday. I went to Portugal and it was great. And I really liked it. And I took my phone with me and I was SSHing into home. And
did you eat lots of cataplana?
What?
Is he gone?
Oh,
Is he gone?
that's awkward.
He's gone.
Oh well, Alan's back on holiday or SSH'd into a server somewhere. Whilst he's figuring out how he SSH's back into Mumble, let's find out what Laura's been up to.
So I got a talk accepted at the DevRelCon conference, which was rather cool. And also, because now I've got to do it.
Oh. So what's the DevRelCon conference?
So it's a new conference that Matthew Ravel from Lug Radio podcast fame, is organising in London in September, just for a day, and it's for developer relations people. So I'm a developer advocate at work. So my face was in the newsletter when they were announcing the speakers, which was a bit scary as well. It also made me think that I should probably get a new headshot done, because the one I keep using is the one that we had done for the podcast, for this podcast, about 4 years ago. 3 years ago.
That's a bit weird. When I met someone at OggCamp last year who'd only seen that picture of me, and they said I'd lost loads of weight. Which I didn't think.
Right.
I don't think I have lost loads of weight. I just think I look kind of chubby in that picture for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
How are you
But
doing,
then
Alan? You
it
back
syncs
with
up
us?
with all my profiles.
hello,
Hello,
yes, I
Alan.
am here. I'm just listening.
Oh,
I'm just
good.
on the button. Carry on.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. So
Anyway.
Martin?
Me. I've been helping with the QA process for the Ubuntu flavors that are participating in the 15.10 Alpha 2 release. So there was a request for people to help from the flavors, and I volunteered, and some of the guys from Ubuntu GNOME are also helping me. So that's been really good. And I'm on jury service, which is not so good.
Oh well.
Interesting, though.
Interesting, yes.
Is it a major interesting crime? Is it computer crime? Is it fraud? Is it hacking?
I couldn't possibly comment.
Tell us later.
That's definitely a yes.
It's totally a yes.
Mark?
I've been playing with the Exposed framework on Android.
What's that then? Everyone seemed blown away by that. We were just like, oh my gosh, he's been using Exposed.
Well, Alan, you used to have a Palm OS device.
Still
didn't
do.
you? Do you remember Palm OS hacks?
No.
No, so
I
there used
do.
to be, so you used to be able to get a load of, I can't exactly remember how you installed them, but you could get a load of pieces of software known as hacks, which basically did things like let you overclock your CPU and messed around with the system interface and stuff. And it's kind of like that for Android. If you've got a rooted phone, you can install this thing called Exposed, and then there's basically a repository of modules you can install. Some of them are just APKs that you get through the Play Store, but you have to have the Exposed framework installed, and then they let you, without having to do like additional root messing around, they let you do hacks on top of existing system stuff or existing apps.
Does that still work after you upgrade your phone? If like there's a Android system update, do they get re-added back on the top or something?
Generally speaking, yeah, it depends on how you install, because there's several ways of installing Exposed, but all of the other stuff is just an app. So that just works like an app does in terms of updates.
Interesting.
But it lets you do some really handy stuff. Like, for example, I've got the BBC weather widget on my home screen, And one of the things that you can get as an exposed framework thing is to make it have a transparent background, which is quite nice. But the really nice thing I found is I use Graffiti for my my text input instead of a keyboard, which is another Palm OS feature. And it's not very well maintained. So on a really high resolution screen, it doesn't scale to the vertical resolution, and you end up with a tiny little area to input your text. But there's an exposed module to basically make it scale up, so you've got a nice big area to write in. And there's all sorts of cool things like that for all sorts of apps. So it's really, really cool.
All right, should we get on with it?
Yeah. We've spoken over the past few shows about Laura and Martin experimenting with Ubuntu phones and trying to keep using them as their main sort of daily driver phone, which they carry around with them all the time. And as part of this, Laura has asked for some input from our community of listeners as to what she should try out and see what's possible. So she's going to tell us a bit about what she's managed to do. So Laura, what have you been trying?
Yeah. So you're all a bunch of geeks,
How
and you just kept asking me. You kept asking me about things like tethering and stuff, which is all very well and that. But I had to send out a second tweet to ask for people to send stuff that normal people would want to know as well. So we've got a mixture of the two. Basically, I didn't test anything that involved me opening a terminal because I figured that's not a very normal thing to do on a phone, and I couldn't be bothered, and it had already taken me hours. But I have found answers to some of the questions anyway. So, starting with privacy and security, just because that's at the top. A few people asked about selectively syncing contacts. Ideally, syncing contacts without Google. So Mark helpfully set up CalDAV for me, and then it just got too much faff to try it out, so I didn't actually bother. But there is I'll put a link in the show notes to where you can find out how to do it, so you can actually sync your contacts without using Google. Because one of the things when you open an Ubuntu phone is it asks you for your Google account, so you can automatically really quickly get set up with your Google settings if you've come from Android.
But you can't. There's no interface for syncing CalDAV and CardDAV. You have to do it through
not directly. No,
that'll change.
It's a terminal thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The syncing service we're using is based on Evolution. EDS.
Yeah.
I think that's going to get replaced at some point, but that's slightly longer term. But yeah, that's in progress.
Cool. So yeah, a variation on that was selectively syncing contacts with WhatsApp, Google, Skype, Viber. I'll talk about some of the apps that are actually available in a minute, but I don't think you can selectively sync, or not directly in the UI anyway.
Correct.
Don't even remember what this one was about. Block select data access by apps.
So that would be if you want to be able to install a bunch of apps, but then restrict ones from being able to connect to the internet, for example. And we have been asked about that, and I know there's a couple of people in the community who really want to be able to say, because it's one of the default policies that we allow apps to connect to the internet and do stuff, and we don't limit what they can do, so we don't firewall applications. And some people would prefer to be able to do that, but we haven't implemented that yet.
Okay. The other one in that sort of security privacy area was Keypass, whether it's available. I had a quick search of the Ubuntu store, and it doesn't return any results, so I'm guessing there's no client ready built, but presumably you could compile your own, because if you go to the Keypass website, you can download the source and do that. LastPass, if you're still on LastPass, does have a couple of entries in the Ubuntu store, one by a certain Martin Wimpress. They both do the same thing as far as I can tell, and they basically just wrap the mobile version of LastPass site so you can access your LastPass details. Unfortunately, copy and paste doesn't work properly yet, so it's kind of limited in its use, but will be there eventually.
So,
I'm guessing if you can use a terminal, you might be able to use Pass, which is the command line tool that I spoke about.
Oh, that'd be
recently,
cool.
Because
yeah.
that's basically that's a shell script around GPG and Git. So as long as they work on the phone, they should work. Although it does rely on copy and paste working between the terminal and other things.
yeah. So last show we talked about OTA 5 and all the improvements that brought, and OTA 6 is a few weeks out. So and I know, Alan, in the past you've said that the copy paste between web apps is something that's being worked on. Is that likely to arrive in OTA 6, or is that scheduled for further out?
I think that's further out. I don't think that's ready yet.
Okay.
Like
So
Grosh.
I should have mentioned that I did all this testing before OTA 5 was available, so we can adjust things I say if we know that they're actually fixed now. So on performance, there are two issues, two things people asked me about. One was battery life. At the time, I was having all kinds of problem with the battery life on the MX4, but since OTA 5, I think that's a lot better, and I haven't retested that explicitly, but it is better. And I think we were talking about it briefly in last week's show, that it's better.
It's definitely better.
So
That's good.
Yeah. The other one was somebody specifically asked me the number of seconds to open the settings app. And the settings app, just as a comparison thing with other devices, it took about 3 seconds. So it's not super speedy to open, at least some apps at the moment.
Actually, it's interesting you should bring that app launching up. There's a thread on the Ubuntu phone mailing list that was started today by Zoltan, who works on the SDK team, about looking at ways in which we can improve startup time, and they've done some benchmarks on using various tools to improve that. So I would expect over the next couple of months that to improve.
Mm-hmm. Connectivity for all you people who want to know about tethering. At the moment, as far as I could tell, there was no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth tethering. If you Google, you can apparently tether with a USB cable, but it involves doing terminal stuff, and I'm blatantly not doing that. So
That's a
you have to
shame,
work that out
because
for yourself.
You can do that on the desktop, can't you? If you've got a 3G connection, you can share that over your Wi-Fi card usually.
There is actually a PPA with a new version of Network Manager and all the necessary bits to just make all this work, the tethering.
Right.
So it's currently being tested by the community. There was a mail sent out a week or so ago when I was on holiday that said, hey, if you're brave and you want to test Wi-Fi tethering, then do the following steps. And a bunch of community people have provided feedback. The guy who maintains that bit of code is on holiday this week, so I don't expect that will move forward until a couple more weeks. But it might be in OTA 6. So in OTA 6, you might just get a graphical button where you just hit it and it then shares your 3G over Wi-Fi, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people asked about whether you can transfer documents to and from the phone without any cloud, which I assumed meant things like using USB or Bluetooth. You can use USB. At the moment, that's the easiest way to transfer things like MP3 files and stuff like that. In theory, you can send and receive files over Bluetooth, in that the settings are there to enable you to do the Bluetooth connection, but the transfer just kept failing when I was trying to send an MP3 file, so I don't know if that's meant to work yet. Do you know?
Think it
I mean,
does.
this was on the previous release as well.
It's in progress.
Yeah, that was the impression I got with it. But yeah, transferring stuff by USB cable is dead easy, and if you mount the phone to an Ubuntu laptop, it goes straight into your home directory on the phone, so it's really simple then to find where you need to put stuff, because there's about 5 directories, and one of them's music, one's pictures, so that's dead easy.
Cool.
Tracking a run with GPS. So basically you need something to trace your GPS when you're out running, and then some way of uploading the GPS to the service that you use, which might be, I don't know, Strava or Runkeeper. I couldn't find anything that would allow me to trace using the phone. So like if I stuck the phone on my arm and went running with it, I couldn't trace it using the Ubuntu phone. But it does include some integration with Fitbit. I mean, it did that right from the start. Only I don't have a Fitbit, so I can't try it. So I assume that works, but I haven't been able to test that. And then from there, you can then export the GPX file and then upload that manually to the website. You can't do that through an app, a native app. There is a Strava app and a Runkeeper app available in the Ubuntu store, but they're just web apps, like wrappers around the website. And Strava itself doesn't have a mobile version of its website, for instance. So it's kind of, you just open a browser basically and upload the file. So that side of it's not great, but it would be interesting if anyone's got a Fitbit that they could try this with, because that looks a lot more integrated.
I think that's a gap. Someone needs to write a Runkeeper-y type app, but I think there's going to be problems there with making sure it's running in the background and always getting your location and all that kind of stuff. So that would need some work.
Yes. Yeah, and for me, it's the Garmin Connect bit, because I've now got a Garmin watch, so I'd need Garmin Connect app. And again, there's an app, but it's a web app, which doesn't actually do anything other than show you the website. So, yeah. There was a UX question. How do you create shortcuts to favourite sites on the right app panel, the launcher? And is there a favourite site scope? As far as I could tell, there isn't a favourite site scope. And I couldn't work out how you lock websites to the launcher, but I had a similar question about the desktop recently and found out how to do it on the desktop. So I assume in some ways you could hack it on the phone if you wanted to.
Yeah. No, there is. I don't think there is a way currently to easily like bookmark something and add it to your homepage like you can on iOS, and I assume you can on Android. Yeah, that's an interesting one. No, you can do it via just editing a text file, I think. But you can't. I don't think you can do it. There isn't a way in the browser to do it. But that's an interesting one, and maybe one we could probably fix fairly easily.
Okay. So the last set of questions I got was about what apps are available. And we'll try and rattle through these. The kind of the $1 million question that everybody keeps asking is there a WhatsApp app? No, there isn't. There just isn't.
Yeah, there's only so many ways we can say, no, there isn't a WhatsApp
app. Is there any way that there could be, Alan, or is that just, there just isn't?
So, you would need to ask WhatsApp. There is nothing we can do about that. Absolutely nothing. And if you try and create one, if you label it a WhatsApp app, then any user who uses that app will chances are they will have their WhatsApp account blocked. So it's not in our interest to do that because we would probably get Facebook's lawyers come after us, and then we'd get angry users come after us. So it just doesn't make sense for us to do that. Once we get a certain critical mass of users, then maybe we can go back to Facebook again and say to them, "Hey, look, we still exist. Please make a WhatsApp app," and maybe they will. But yeah, until that happens, no.
So in terms of equivalence, which obviously isn't helpful if your friends are on WhatsApp, but an equivalent is Telegram. Yes. Telegram is an awesome app. And it just is. It's better than WhatsApp. I couldn't tell you why. I think it seems a little bit quicker, Telegram, but it is just better.
They smell better.
I think that's part of it. You become more beautiful when you're on Telegram. Yes, Telegram's awesome, and it's available on practically every platform under the sun, including desktops and browsers and things, and all the different phones. So if you can, Telegram, go with Telegram.
Yeah. Well, you could do what I did, which is preempt this by getting all of your friends and family onto Telegram and away from WhatsApp, so that this isn't a problem for you.
Yeah. So we had a question about SoundCloud. There is a SoundCloud scope. SoundCloud is a site that hosts podcasts and music and things. And there is a scope enabled by default. But I couldn't get it to work. There was a link that said popular tracks on SoundCloud, and it just took me to log into SoundCloud, and then I couldn't log in, and it wasn't that it didn't work, it's because I couldn't log in, and so I had with Facebook or Google, which was already set in my phone, which would have been easy, but because I couldn't get a LastPass to run properly, I couldn't copy my details, and I couldn't be bothered, so I gave up on that. So that was more of a me couldn't be bothered to log in. But it's a website, a web app rather than a native one anyway. Uploading photos to Twitter and Facebook. In theory, you can, the option's there, but at the time anyway, it wasn't working. And I believe in OTA 5, it's still not working from what somebody said on Telegram.
It broke in, recently, and it should be fixed for OTA 6.
Yeah, and it did work originally. It's not that
we
it's
regressed
just
that,
not there.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I got bitten by that on holiday. I was trying to tweet photos of things while I was on holiday, and it didn't work. So I jumped on IRC and was nagging people to say, why can't I upload photos from my phone? And they said, you're on holiday, get off IRC.
Yes, but you're on holiday, you want to upload photos. Yeah. So by the way, I will put a link from this in the show notes if I remember. There is an app explorer that you can get on the website that allows you to search from the web. So really quickly, going to rattle through because there was a question about ebook readers, and I discovered Stuart Language's Seshat website. Seshat? Which gives you access to Amazon's Cloud Reader, so you can read your Kindle books on your Ubuntu phone. And there's a little bit of a rendering problem in the toolbars fitting, but other than that, it works. So that's quite nice. And there are other apps for Project Gutenberg and things. You can sync from Dropbox with UDrop Cabin, which is okay. It's a bit like the Android Dropbox app in that it does the uploading and things, but there's no auto syncing like, say, Sync, which is what I use on that Android phone. So you can't, for instance, automatically back up your photos. You have to do it manually.
But with Dropbox, that might be
there
a
are
good
Twitter
thing,
and Facebook.
so that you don't end up.
The what?
With Dropbox, that might be a good thing on your phone, so you don't end up using up all of your phone storage with whatever you happen to have in Dropbox.
Yeah, but there's no auto upload either.
Oh, I see.
So, like, on my
you can't
on my Android phone, every time I take a photo, it uploads to Dropbox.
Okay. Right, yes. Okay, I can see why you want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked about shopping lists. There's a Notes app, which logs into your Evernote account, which is quite cool. Instagram, there's an Instagram web app, but it just gives you access to the Instagram mobile website. So you can browse pics. You can't actually share a photo or anything, which is kind of the whole point of Instagram. So, music, there's a default music app which works pretty well. You transfer your files by USB or download them directly. And I thought it sounded pretty good. And that's about everything, I think. So if you have any more questions, feel free to email the show at show@ubuntupodcast.org.
That was pretty comprehensive. Cool. Thank you for that, Laura.
Yeah.
No worries.
It's time for Command Line Love, not doing a stupid voice. And this one was...
You're no fun.
This one was sent to us by Stuart Ward and is called Path Picker. It's on GitHub, and I think it came from Facebook. I think they originated this thing called Path Picker. And the description... it's actually called Facebook Path Picker, so yes, that would correlate. The description says, it's a simple command line tool that solves the perpetual problem of selecting files out of bash output. This was not a problem I knew I had. And I didn't realize it was perpetual either. So, however...
But it definitely solves it.
We will have to see about that. It's so take for example, you've got a directory with lots of subdirectories, and there's lots of files scattered all over those subdirectories. There may be it may be code, for example, and there's CSS files here, and there's JavaScript files there, and there's HTML and all kinds of other bits and bobs all over the place. And for some reason, let's say for example, you rename a function or something, or you rename, you copy and reuse that entire code base for something else. You want to rename various things that are scattered throughout the files. I think this is a plausible use case. rather than like going into each directory and finding all the files and then opening each file individually, what you might do is from further up the tree, you might grep for the name of the thing that you want to change, right? And then you get a list of files, and then you'd have to manually go through each one. Well, this solves that problem. So what you can do is with Path Picker, you can get this selection of files, the result of your grep, and it will present it in a curses interface, like a screen where you can use the cursor keys to move up and down through this list of files. And then you could do something with those files, like open a text editor. So you could do your grep through this big tree of files for whatever word you're looking for. You get the results, and then you could tag each file that you want to edit, all the JavaScript ones, for example, or all the CSS ones, and then send those files only to a text editor. And then you can edit those files and save them. That sounds plausible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could actually see that being useful. I was sceptical when you started, but now I've seen some of the examples. Yeah, I could make use of that.
And I now know what a curses interface is. I thought it was something to do with Harry Potter.
How long have we been doing this show? And we've said curses more than once, Laura. Come on, keep up.
Maybe I wasn't listening.
Yeah,
That's
so
certainly
that's the only command line love. If you do have any command line loves, we don't have a lot of these like queued up for the next few episodes. So if you do have one that we haven't done before,
Yes.
then let us know. Send us an email. Contact details we'll give later on in the show.
Yes, or indeed a GUI love. We'd like some of
Yes,
those.
GUI loves as well, or even a
Yeah.
combined command line and GUI love. Those are quite rare.
Ooh, yeah.
Steady on there, Martin.
And we'll go through some of your feedback now. So Nebuchadnezzar posted on our website, which is, of course, ubuntupodcast.org.
Little follow-up about the tab reloading problem on mobile phones. One of the podcasts I'm listening to, I think it was Linux Voice, someone mentioned a plugin called Tab Suspender for Chrome and Firefox. It puts tabs...
I think they'll find that was
I
us.
think it was us. It puts tabs which aren't actively used at the moment to sleep after a certain period of time to save battery life. When you go to one of those tabs, you have to reload the page to be able to view it. Since mobile devices are much more focused on saving battery life and resources, I can imagine that something like this is implemented by default.
It was me. I use Tab
Yes, I
Suspender.
thought it was you.
I use it all the time, and it is brilliant. I use it on my laptop, not on a mobile device, but on my laptop, where I have. Do you know, if I ever post a screenshot of something, if there happens to be my browser in the screenshot, then the only comments I ever get are not about the subject of the screenshot. It's always about how many tabs I have open. And I deliberately trolled people.
And they're entirely justified because I've seen how many tabs you keep open and it's ridiculous.
And last week I thought I would test this by taking a screenshot of Steam because Terraria for Steam came out. So I took a screenshot and then I noticed that I didn't have my tabs visible. So I moved the Steam window down about half an inch on my screen and I took the screenshot again and then posted it. And immediately afterwards, all of the comments were, "Oh my God, how many tabs have you got open, dude?" So yeah, that's why, is because I have Tab Suspender and it just suspends them. And when I go to the tab, they wake up, and it is brilliant and you should use it too.
So is he suggesting that we should use that on the phones
Well,
as well?
he's suggesting
Or
that
something
that
similar.
might be why it's happening on mobile devices. But I think Stuart Langridge answered it a few weeks ago when he said the reason they do that is because the memory footprint on a phone is so low that it can't possibly cache the entire page and all the JavaScript and all the other bits and bobs. So it just forces a reload when you go away from the page and come back.
So someone needs a cooler idea to fix that problem.
Well, yes.
Or a lot more memory on your phone.
Yes.
Or that. Frode Wilson from Norway emailed us on show@ubuntupodcast.org.
I have loved that you guys have a podcast feed with access to all the old episodes in one place to make it easy for me to listen back to some of the older episodes. However, in Season 8, you have a new website with a podcast feed only containing the 10 newest episodes. I was wondering if you could please edit that feed to contain all the archive podcasts back to episode 1.
So hold on. Is he saying that our feed on our new show, on our new site, only contains the last 10 episodes, not all of season 8?
That's correct.
Yes, we can fix that. Sorry, I thought he was saying, could you please retrofit seasons 1 through 7 into the new feed? Yes, I will fix that. It is a little box you have to fill in WordPress, and you have now highlighted the fact that I did not fill that in. So yes, I will do that.
Cool.
That was easy.
Okay. Yeah. At the Falcon tweeted us on @Ubuntu Podcast.
Why didn't @Ubuntu Podcast ask what was going on with Microbit and its open software, rather than just wrongly speculating it's closed? You could ask @SophieBR how open Microbit is. Answer, a lot. Well, clearly I don't need to ask Sophie anymore because you've told us. Mark, this is your fault, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I basically said, I don't know, I spoke in a disparaging tone about how it didn't appear that there was much in the way of open source software to do with the Microbit. And to be fair, after he posted this tweet, I then went specifically looking for mentions of open source software around sites that mentioned the Microbit, including the BBC website, and didn't find anything. So I'm not saying that there's not a lot of open stuff going on. It's just people aren't shouting about it. So maybe we should speak to Sophie BR or someone else about it and find out what's going on.
That's a shame. You would have thought it would have all the open hardware logos and open source stuff all over the place, because that kind of powers this new wave of getting people involved. Is writing code, making it available, sharing code, using GitHub, all those kind of things. You would think that would be cool things for them to use to promote Microbit, but maybe they have, and we're just too dumb to find that stuff.
So in the absence of that knowledge, we speculate.
Yeah, we do it every time.
All the time.
Yes. Is that all of the feedback?
I believe so.
I think so. We love getting your feedback, so please send it to us. Even the pointlessly mean stuff makes us laugh a little bit. If it's short, tweet us on @Ubuntu Podcast. If it's less short, but please no essays, email us on show@ubuntupodcast.org. Or you can leave a comment on the relevant show notes on our website, ubuntupodcast.org.
Woohoo! That's all for episode 21. We'll be back next week.
22.
22.
Oh, 22. Oh, I was so close. Never mind.
It was
22.
the enthusiasm.
Yeah, I know. I can't
Yeah.
talk and be enthusiastic at the same time. You either get enthusiastic and incorrect, or correct and dull and boring. Anyway, we'll be back next week when we'll have more news and comment and discussion and some grumpy
speculation.
voice in the background, probably.
And good news for Vrode Wilson from Norway, I have changed the feed settings, so now 1,000 episodes will show up in the feed when we make 1,000.
Wow, that's responsive.
Right, stop recording.